Right, today we're focusing on chapter 15 and chapter 16. Let's start. The Old Hostler. After this, it was decided by my master and mistress to pay a visit to some friends who lived about 46 miles from our home, and James was to drive them. The first day, we travelled 32 miles. There were some long, heavy hills, but James drove so carefully and thoughtfully that we were not at all harassed. He never forgot to put on the brake as we went downhill, nor to take it off at the right place. He kept our feet on the smoothest part of the road, and if the uphill was very long, he set the carriage wheels a little across the road so as not to run back, and gave us a breathing. All these little things help a horse very much, particularly if he gets kind words into the bargain. We stopped once or twice on the road, and just as the sun was going down, we reached the town where we were to spend the night. We stopped at the principal hotel, which was in the marketplace. It was a very large one. We drove under an archway into a long yard, at the furthest end of which were the stables and coach houses. 2 hostlers came to take us out. The head hostler was a pleasant, active little man, with a crooked leg and a yellow striped waistcoat. I never saw a man unbuckle harness so quickly as he did, and with a pat and a good word he led me to a long stable with 6 or 8 stalls in it, and 2 or 3 horses. The other man brought Ginger. James stood by while we were rubbed down and cleaned. I was never cleaned so lightly and quickly as by that little old man. When he had done, James stepped up and felt me over as if he thought I could not be thoroughly done, but he found my coat as clean and smooth as silk. "Well," he said, "I thought I was pretty quick, and our John quicker still, but you do beat all I ever saw for being quick and thorough at the same time." "Practice makes perfect," said the crooked little hostler, "and 'twould be a pity if it didn't. 40 years' practice and not perfect, ha! That would be a pity. And as to being quick, why, bless you, that is only a matter of habit. If you get into the habit of being quick, it is just as easy as being slow. Easier, I should say. In fact, it don't agree with my health to be hulking about over a job twice as long as it need take. Bless you, I couldn't whistle if I crawled over my work as some folks do. You see, I've been about horses ever since I was 12 years old, in hunting stables and racing stables, and being small, you see, I was a jockey for several years. But at the Goodwood, you see, the turf was very slippery, and my poor Larkspur got a fall, and I broke my knee, and so of course it was no more use there. But I could not live without horses, of course I couldn't, so I took to the hotels, and I can tell you it is a downright pleasure to handle an animal like this, well bred, well mannered, well cared for, bless you. I can tell how a horse is treated. Give me the handling of a horse for 20 minutes and I'll tell you what sort of a groom he has. Look at this one, pleasant, quiet, turns about just as you want him, holds up his feet to be cleaned out or anything else you please to wish, and then you'll find another fidgety, fretty, won't move right away or starts across the stall, tosses up his head as soon as you come near him, lays his ears and seems afraid of you, or else squares about at you with his heels. Poor things, I know what sort of treatment they have had. If they are timid, it makes them start or shy. If they are high-mettled, it makes them vicious or dangerous. Their temperaments are mostly made when they are young. Bless you, they are like children. Train them up in the way they should go, as the good book says, and when they are old, they will not depart from it, if they have a chance. "I like to hear you talk," said James. "That's the way we lay it down at home, at our master's." "Who is your master, young man? If it be a proper question, I should judge he is a good one from what I see." "He's Squire Gordon of Birtwick Park, on the other side of the Beacon Hills," said James. "Ah, so, I have heard tell of him. Fine judge of horses, ain't he? The best rider in the county." "I believe he is," said James, "but he rides very little now since the poor young master was killed." "Ah, poor gentleman, I read all about it in the papers at the time. A fine horse killed, too, wasn't there?" "Yes," said James, "he was a splendid creature, brother to this one, and just like him." Pity, said the old man. "'Twas a bad place to leap, if I remember. A thin fence at the top, a steep bank down to the stream, wasn't it? No chance for a horse to see where he's going. Now I am for bold riding as much as any man, but still there are some leaps that only a very knowing old huntsman has any right to take. A man's life and a horse's life are worth more than a fox's tail. At least, I should say they ought to be." During this time, the other man had finished Ginger and brought out our corn, and James and the old man left the stable together. Chapter 16. The Fire. Later on the evening, a traveller's horse was brought in by the second hostler, and while he was cleaning him, a young man with a pipe in his mouth lounged into the stable to gossip. "I say, Towler," said the hostler, "just run up that ladder into the loft and put some hay down into this horse's rack, will you? Only lay down your pipe." "All right," said the other, and went up through the trapdoor, and I heard him step across the floor overhead and put down the hay. James came in and took us the last thing, and then the door was locked. I cannot say how long I slept, nor what time in the night it was, but I woke up very uncomfortable, though I hardly knew why. I got up, the air seemed all thick and choking. I heard Ginger coughing, and one of the other horses seemed very restless. It was quite dark and I could see nothing, but the stable seemed full of smoke, and I hardly knew how to breathe. The trap door had been left open, and I thought that was the place it came through. I listened and heard a soft rushing sort of noise, a low cackling and snapping. I did not know what it was, but there was something in the sound so strange that it made me tremble all over. The other horses were all awake. Some were pulling at their halters, others stamping. At last I heard steps outside, and the hostler had brought up the traveller's horse, burst into the stable with a lantern, and began to untie the horses and try to lead them out. But he seemed in such a hurry and so frightened himself that he frightened me still more. The first horse would not go with him. He tried the second and third, and they too would not stir. He came to me next and tried to drag me out of the stall by force. Of course that was no use. He tried us all by turns and then left the stable. No doubt we were very foolish, but the danger seemed to be all around, and there was nobody we knew to trust in, and all was strange and uncertain. The fresh air had come in through the open door, made it easier to breathe, but the rushing sound overhead grew louder, and as I looked upward towards the bars of my empty rack, I saw a red light flickering on the wall. Then I heard the cry of "Fire!" outside, and the old hostler quietly and quickly came in. He got one horse out and went to another, but the flames were playing around the trapdoor and the roaring overhead was dreadful. The next thing I heard was James's voice, quiet and cheery, as it always was. "Come on, my beauties, it's time for us to be off, so wake up and come along." I stood nearest the door, so he came to me first, patting me as he came in. "Come on, Beauty, on with your bridle, my boy. We'll soon be out of this smother." It was in no time. Then he took the scarf off his neck and tied it lightly over my eyes, and patting and coaxing, he led me out of the stable. Safe in the yard, he slipped the scarf off my eyes and shouted, "Here, somebody, take this horse while I go back for the other." A tall, broad man stepped forward and took me, and James darted back into the stable. I set up a shrill whinny as I saw him go. Ginger told me afterwards that whinny was the best thing I could have done for her. For had she not heard me outside, she would have never had the courage to come out. There was much confusion in the yard, the horses being got out of the other stables, and the carriages and gigs being pulled out of the houses and sheds, lest the flames should spread further. On the other side, the yard windows were thrown up, and people were shouting all sorts of things, but I kept my eyes fixed on the stable door, where the smoke poured out thicker than ever, and I could see flashes of red light. Presently I heard above all the stir and din a loud, clear voice, which I knew was the master's. James Howard, are you in there?" There was no answer, but I heard a crash of something falling inside the stable, and the next moment I gave a loud, joyful neigh, for I saw James coming through the smoke, leading Ginger with him. She was coughing violently, and he was not able to speak. "My brave lad," said master, laying his hand on his shoulder. "Are you hurt?" James shook his head, for he could not yet speak. "Aye," said the big man who held me. "He is a brave lad, and no mistake." "And now," said the master, "when you've got your breath, James, we'll get out of this place as quickly as we can." And we were moving towards the entry when from the marketplace there came a sound of galloping feet and a loud rumbling of wheels. "'Tis the fire engine, the fire engine!" shouted 2 or 3 voices. "Stand back, make way!" And clattering, thundering over the stones, 2 horses dashed into the yard with a heavy engine behind them. The firemen leapt to the ground. There was no need to ask where the fire was. It was rolling up in a great blaze from the roof. We got out as fast as we could from the broad, quiet marketplace. The stars were shining, and except the noise behind us, all was still. Master led the way to a large hotel on the other side, and as soon as the hostler came, he said, "James, I must now hasten to your mistress. I trust the horses entirely to you. Order whatever you think is needed," and with that he was gone. The master did not run, but I never saw a mortal man walk so fast as he did that night. There was a dreadful sound before we got into our stalls, the shrieks of those poor horses that were left burning to death in the stable. It was very terrible, and made both Ginger and me feel very bad. We, however, were taken in and well done by. The next morning the master came to see how we were doing and to speak to James. I did not hear much, for the hostler was rubbing me down, but I could see that James looked very happy, and I thought the master was proud of him. Our mistress had been so much alarmed in the night that the journey was put off till the afternoon, so James had the morning on hand, and went first to the inn to see about a harness and the carriage, and then to hear more about the fire. When he came back, we heard him tell the hostler about it. At first no one could guess how the fire had been caused. But at last a man said he saw Dick Toller go into the stable with a pipe in his mouth, and when he came out he had not one, and went to the tap for another. Then the under hostler said he had asked Dick to go up the ladder to put down some hay, but told him to lay down his pipe first. Dick denied taking the pipe up with him, but no one believed him. I remember our John Manley's rule, never to allow a pipe in the stable, and thought it ought to be the rule everywhere. James said the roof and floor had fallen in, and that there were only the black walls were standing. The two poor horses that could not be got out were buried underneath the burnt rafters and tiles. So there we go, not a happy chapter. What I'd like for you to do is to make a poster or warning sign about the dangers of pipes. Now remember, pipes were used a lot more than they are now for smoking, so it'd be a thing you'd hold like this and the smoke would go, it'd be on fire in the end, the smoke would go up inside it. So if you were looking at a pipe, which looks something like this, you've probably seen them. So if you're looking at a pipe, it would be something like this, and the smoke would come out the top. This part in here has the tobacco and the flames, and then the person breathes in over here. So I'd like for you to make a poster or a warning sign about the dangers of pipes being allowed in stables. You can either do that on purple mash, which on the to-do that I will set you, or you can do it on paper and then send us a picture into your year group emails. Either way is absolutely fine, but I look forward to seeing what you come up with, because I think we can all agree after that chapter, which is not a very nice one at all, that pipes being inside stables is really, really dangerous, and flames in general. Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow with chapter 16, which is chapter 17 rather, which is hopefully a bit happier. And I look forward to seeing what you create. Bye.